AA Beyond Belief is a podcast by, for, and about people who have found a secular path to sobriety and Alcoholics Anonymous. So today we're going to try a question and answer episode. This is your opportunity to interview Angela and I. You can ask us a question about our own personal journeys in recovery, or maybe about the podcast, the website AA Beyond Belief, or the experience of simply walking a secular path in AA. So if you have a question you would like to send in to stimulate the discussion, you can do so through the chat feature in YouTube and Facebook, or you can call us at 844-899-8278. Well, Angela, here we are again, another Friday, and we are live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. How about that?
That is what we're doing.
It's our Friday night thing.
Friday night thing. Yeah. How was your day?
It's not been bad. I just worked, and we have summer hours, so I get off at 2:30 on Fridays and during the summertime, and so that's really nice. I like that because I can just kind of shut down at 2:30, take a little nap, take the dog for a walk, and be ready for this. So
yeah, sounds nice.
How about you? How'd your day go?
I was a bit cranky earlier in the day. I didn't get a lot of sleep. It's been super hot here and just did not cool down last night. And so I was a little bit agitated easily earlier today. But I don't think anyone noticed, so I'm sure it's fine. And but no, I had a rough morning, but I listened to some podcasts in the afternoon and kind of, got myself evened out and made it clear to anybody who follows us in the Facebook groups and stuff that that I truly am an alcoholic. I probably requalified myself with my reactivity, but I'm
surprised I still have friends on Facebook. I have.
Well, I only tend to be reactive in the Facebook groups, not on my active page, that I keep it up appearances of, being a solid person in recovery or, just a solid neighbor and stuff. Post pictures of my dog, things like that.
I love those pictures, by the way.
Thanks. Thanks. I have one I need to upload. One of the girls wrapped Toby up in her burrito blanket. It's really funny. Anyway. So that's kind of how my day was. But I like I said, I listened to a couple of really great podcasts, and so they might come up a little bit tonight and stuff that we talk about, and anything that I do talk about, I'll list. Somebody sent me one on what was the name of it? Trauma in the 12 Steps by Dr. Jamie Marich, and it was on a podcast that I'd never listened to before. That was on sex and love addiction.
And already, I can't believe it.
Wow! All right. Well, anyway,
I'm sorry about that.
The call? Yeah.
Well, how about this? Who's this? Hello.
Hi, my name's Bill from St. Louis.
Hey, Bill. What's up?
Hey, Bill.
Hi, John and Angela. Well, I just wanted to call in. I had a couple ideas and thought I'd share them with you. I just love you guys' podcast. I've been listening to it for quite a while. Gosh, I know it's been over a year, but I don't know how long you've been doing this. But I listened to the podcast, and then now that you've been doing the Friday night thing in lockdown, I look forward to that. This is my first time listening live. I don't normally. Friday night is kind of a chill time with me and my family. So, but I was looking for a way to submit the question ahead of time, and then earlier tonight, a couple hours ago, I was going to put it in the chat window, and I thought, I'll just set aside a block and do it live because I know, I listen so much that I know you guys are usually looking for live feedback.
We are. We love it.
Yeah. John gets really excited. You've made his night already.
Whenever I see a call, it's like, oh God, someone's actually calling.
It means somebody's listening.
Oh, that's cool.
All right. What's your question?
Okay. Well, just a short little background. I got a little over a couple of years sobriety. I use alternative programs. I'm not an AA member. I always say, if I knew there was something out there besides AA, I probably would have tried to get sober, or I would have tried a program a long time sooner than I did. So I used Smart Recovery and SOS, Secular Organization for Sobriety.
Yeah.
In fact, a funny little thing, the week before last, our weekly meeting, they were talking about AA and the problems with the group, the problems that they had, and that comes up. But in this particular meeting, as they went on for, a good 20 minutes or so talking about what their experience was, I felt like I was listening to your podcast. It was like, I have already heard everything that they're saying.
That's funny.
You guys put a really good thing on it. And I appreciate the insight you guys have about your experience with it and what you think the problems are, because I hear people bellyache and complain about it, but they don't give concrete evidence about what the problems with the with the program. Usually they just talk about the people, or like John, I know you say about the that it was written 80 years ago, or it was written in the 40s. Yeah, and that's a good example of why they're they don't change.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and get on to what I wanted. I was wondering if you guys would like to talk about self-care, and in that I mean making sure that a person is well rested, that they have good nutrition, that they're they have a clean body, hygiene, and their surroundings, and how that pertains to having your best physical and mental condition for prevention of relapse. I don't know if that's something that you guys focus on personally, but I haven't really heard it discussed on your podcast. I never went through rehab. I went to detox, but I never did a residential facility.
Yep.
And when I was an outpatient, they talked about self-care a lot, and I know it's also an aspect that they stress for people with health, mental health issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then secondly, if you guys and these were ahead of time. I heard you looking for suggestions or questions last week, and you could even talk about this on a future episode if you don't have a ready answer. But I was wondering if you guys have any tools or practices that you use for stress management and prevention methods that you guys use just to keep yourself strong. I mean, I know you guys have a lot of years under your belt, and it gets easier the longer you go. But just any tools you guys use.
Well, those are both good questions. Boy, that one about that self-care. That that's one place I think where in AA anyway we do fall short, because it's really not mentioned anywhere in our literature. And back in the old days, we just sat around and smoked cigarettes and drank coffee. So there really wasn't any emphasis whatsoever on health.
I think for when I'm working the steps or taking somebody through the steps, we kind of talk about in step 2, there is some of that in there, because instead of seeking, a spiritual power greater than ourselves or mystical or something like that, we write down different tools that we already, like to do. So going for walks or taking a bath or, coloring or journaling or, hanging out with our dog, things like that. We make a list of those things as being something that we can turn to when we're stressed or struggling as we're going through the steps and continuing to gain tools, because those are tools that we already have in our lives, things that we like to do and things that benefit us. We just don't necessarily think of them as tools or as something to help with stress. The physical stuff, I I believe, Staying Sober Without God, Jeffrey Munn's book.
He does address it.
He does address that, and that's one of the great things about that book. There's a lot of good stuff about it, but that is one that I think he really did a good job of, that not many other pieces of literature that I know of right now talk about, which is, the physical of, looking at yoga, the actual physical part of meditative practice of sitting and exercise and eating better and things like that. And there is a version of the 12 steps where it does say that specifically, as we stopped smoking and started eating healthy and stuff like that. I don't hear it very often, but there is a version that includes that. So,
for me, Angela, I did start addressing that after about 10 years of sobriety. But for me, what happened was I was sober for 10 years, but I was really struggling with depression. So I started going to therapy, and my therapist was focusing on physical things. Like he said, you need to stop smoking, you need to start walking and all this kind of stuff. And he was just kind of he was kind of teaching me about how physical activity can help me with my mood and my overall health. And so I did start paying attention to that. And that was the time when I joined a gym and I started running and exercising and all that kind of stuff, and learning about new different ways of taking care of myself and nutrition. And it was really a great time for me. But my problem is I'm not very consistent with it, and I haven't been for a couple of years now. So I almost feel like I could tell you, yes, I know how important it is and what to do, but man, I'm not doing it right now. So I feel kind of guilty about even talking about it. But in a way, I mean, it's something that I think about. I mean, all I do now, I think since COVID, I've not been eating as well as I was pre-COVID. And I don't know why that is, other than I'm at home working and it's easy to run off and get snacks and that kind of thing. So I'm not eating very healthy. My sleeping is getting better, as far as exercise goes, just taking my dog for walks. But I noticed that I've changed a lot since my ability to, travel very far away from my house has been limited.
Yeah, that is a good point, and I think a lot of people can relate. I know I can as well. So I think it would probably also fall under the self-care of what we're going through right now is difficult for everyone, not just people in recovery, that and people with various time in recovery, because this is a different situation. So being kind to ourselves and not expecting yourself to do a new schedule where you're like, okay, I'm going to get up every morning at 6 a.m. and I'm going to go for a run and, things like that, maybe just do little incremental things.
That's right. That's what you do. Yep.
Yeah. Cause that's what we did in early recovery.
That's right. One little step at a time.
Yeah.
It's like you have to keep it in front of your mind, but it is really important. I'm much, much better off, I think, in every possible way, if I eat right and I exercise and have some balance. It's balance, having balance in your life.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question very well, but it is really important. And it would be good to have an episode. I actually did talk to Tommy Rosen once. I did an episode with him, and he is does Recovery 2.0. He's really big into nutrition and physical fitness and yoga and all that stuff as part of his recovery. And he thinks it's essential, and I had a really great conversation with him on that podcast. He was really a very inspiring person. But I just, I really need to get off my butt, start doing something. Some of that.
Yeah.
So is that a bad answer?
No, it's an honest answer. I think that's what people expect from us.
What I really didn't think about ahead of time was, with AA, I suppose, they're just like, well, here's the steps. This is the program. You do this. That's what that's what it takes. Yeah. So they don't really focus on other aspects.
They don't. But, I studied the SMART. I studied SMART. I got my SMART certificate some time ago. But I haven't done much with it since then. And I know that there is a stage where you go through where you do focus on that. Does SMART talk about that more so than we do in AA?
Yeah.
Do they?
SMART all that it's about, cognitive behavioral therapy strategies.
Yeah.
Strategies for prevention. One of their, achieving or leading a balanced life.
Yeah.
Right.
They're one of their core tenets.
Yeah.
Coping with urges and cravings.
Yep.
And maintaining a balanced life.
Yep.
That's all they do. They have worksheets, handouts at their meetings, and
I
other
think
than the sharing
pretty,
in the meeting.
Yeah, intentional about that. I think it's implied from AA. It's just not as blatant,
No.
So because
You'll hear
I think
people's individual shares. Certain people who are really into it will talk about it in meetings, but you don't really see it so much in the literature or just in the the actual program itself. But it should be.
Right. Yeah, I think they're both about getting a daily lifestyle change, basically learning how to do that. And we start with our substance of choice of not doing that, and then start adding things that we can do that are healthier. And
as far as stress goes, that's a different thing for me now. I don't really feel, if I ever feel stress, it's just during the day at work, where I've just got a lot. You like all of us, I'm multitasking. I got a lot of stuff going on at the same time. I got, deadlines to meet and people wanting me to do this and that. And I just feel like this adrenaline kind of building up in me and so forth. And I just, when I notice it, I'm pretty good about getting my dog and going for a walk, and that's basically what I do. But I don't really think about it other than I feel stressed. I got to get the hell out of here is my reaction, but it does help. But that's where I feel the stress. I don't feel it in any other area of my life right now. Now, when I was new, I had, well, I don't know if you'd call it stress, but it was just the fear of life, I guess. The trauma of what was going to be happening to me because of all the problems from my drinking that still hadn't played out, all that. And that was really difficult. And I did, at that time, I would just surround myself with people as much as I could. Being alone was really hard for me. That was really essential for me, I guess, at that time. So yeah. What about you?
Oh, I thought you were asking him. Are you
I am asking him.
Yeah.
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
You mean for stress?
Yeah.
Well, if we plan ahead, if there's a stressful situation that we're anticipating, then we'll come up with options. Like if we're going somewhere where, if we're going to visit an old friend and we know that they use or we know they're a heavy drink like that, then we might bring, a drink along with us, or bring, some crossword puzzles or whatever it is, in order to do that. That would be a strategy, that's like one of the tools.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah.
Thanks. And then just for as far as me and stress, I'm pretty good. I don't really have a problem with it, but it's just with our programs, it's something that we need to kind of be aware of so that it doesn't throw us off of our plan. So we don't let our guard.
Yeah.
By getting in a situation and getting a case of to hell with it. What do I care? Or
right. Yeah, that sounds like one of the good things about Smart Recovery. I haven't attended one, but if you're talking about that and talking about stress, I know that sometimes in AA meetings, I've seen that in some meetings, it seems like you're only supposed to be talking about, solution, that they say, how things have changed, how things are great. And that, people, if they share something going on with them or something that's difficult, then they're not in solution and they need to get in solution. So I can see that in some meetings, people are discouraged from sharing things like that. Because others will think that they're not, working a good program or something along those lines. So I think that's something that we can do better of. I think most of the secular meetings that I attend, that's not the case. I haven't heard, terminology like that of that, you need to be in solution. And that it seems to me that most of the ones I attend, people feel free to talk about what their stressors are, particularly in this this time. And because, everything that stresses us could cause us to drink. All of the things going on right now, can be potential triggers. And so talking about that is important. So I think some of the more traditional AA could probably learn from Smart Recovery in that aspect. From what I've heard, people who have been around, for 30 years say that it was more like that before, and then things have changed in the last, 25 years of where it became a little more harsh.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, thank you for calling. I appreciate it. Those were great questions. And what's smart? Do you go to smart meetings online now, I guess?
Actually, the smart meetings are not taking place, but the SOS, I haven't been able to find any smart Zoom meetings.
No.
What my situation was, I started with SOS, and I tried the Dharma recovery, which was called Refuge Recovery at that time.
Yeah.
And I went to a few of those. I
Smart.
went to the also, but the only the SOS, Secular Organization for Sobriety, that was pretty far away. That was about a 40-minute drive. And finally, so I switched over to Smart Recovery because they were closer.
Yeah.
And at the end here, before the pandemic hit, I was doing three separate meetings once a week, and I would rotate between the three. One was two of them were Smart Recoveries, one in the morning, one in the evening, and then the third one was an SOS meeting, and that was only about 30 minutes away, so it was a little better.
Well, I was going to say,
now
Smart.
That
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Now that we're about 14 weeks in, I think that's what it is. I just do SOS, consistently, or whatever the word is. Every week we have an SOS meeting, and it's the same person that I used to go to in person, but we've got our group, and now, like you say with yours, where you get people from outside, instead of just the little St. Louis neighborhood that we were in, we're getting people from. We've got 3 or 4 people from Buffalo, New York. We've got someone from someone from the San Francisco Bay Area who's been joining us.
Yeah,
and one of the people is actually works at a treatment center, so that's great. And another person is a retired doctor. So that's pretty cool too.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for calling. And I love St. Louis, by the way. It's a great city. I should. Yeah, it's not that far from here. So and it's a nice little escape sometimes. So anyway, thanks for calling. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye. I was going to say with Smart, they do have online meetings. If you go to the Smart website and they have you can register to go to their online meetings, and they're different than the AA meetings online. They're more like seminars in a way.
Oh.
They go for like an hour and a half, but you don't have to sit through the whole thing. I know it's hard for me to sit through an hour and a half on a video call. Yeah. But they're really, really well done. The presenters are some of their best people, and they go through all the Smart tools and everything, and they really do a good job of it. So, if you ever want to check it out and learn something about Smart, that's a good way of doing it. You do have to register though to get online to be able to go to those meetings, but it's not a big deal. They just send you an email and you click on it to register like you do for some things. So
right.
Anyway, good questions. I always feel bad when someone wants to talk about what I do for physical fitness.
Well, there are times, in your sobriety when you were. So
I know. I wish you would have asked me like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah, sometimes, but that's the reality, and that's one of the things I think people like about our podcast is that we're not just saying or showing that we're perfect people who do a perfect program or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, he asked about stress management and staying sane or something like that early on. And the first thing we get into our call, I'm like, I was cranky.
Yeah, yeah.
I was not using halt. I wasn't using the
Another
pause,
caller.
or agitated or doubtful. So I think that people appreciate that.
Let's see who this is. How about this? Hello? Hello. Maybe that was the last person. Let me see here. Maybe I didn't press that right. Hello? Okay.
Hi, John. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Who's this?
This is Fred in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh my goodness, Fred. You're getting to be an old friend. How you doing?
I think I'm gonna be a regular sometime. I don't know, but I listen to the show.
All right.
And how you doing, Angela?
I'm hanging in there. Thanks, Fred.
So what kind of question you
That's
have?
good. I have a question. I'm interested in Angela's recovery. In Idaho, did you get sober there, or had you had an experience before, Angela, with the sobriety somewhere else?
No, I got sober in Boise. Yeah, so I got sober in Idaho, and it was a pretty good experience. Yes, there were people that were waiting for me to get a higher power that they understood better, but that didn't happen. And they were patient with me. They put up with me, and I don't feel like I got as much flack as I hear quite a few other people do. The people in this area seem to be much more concerned that I was somebody who wanted to get and stay sober, and helping me do that than they cared about how I did the steps or chose to call anything. So I'm grateful for that, being the community that I was able to get sober in.
When did you start? When did you start?
My sobriety date was 9/16/06, so 2006.
2006.
Yeah.
That's very, very good.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you have a very good. You have a very articulate vocabulary, and I think that you're quite intelligent, because when I listen to you talk sometime, you have a lot of words in a minute.
Thanks. Yeah. It might be, particularly if it's been in the last month, I've been watching a lot of Hamilton, and so that could be it. Maybe I'm trying to keep up with how they do things, but I appreciate that. That's very kind of you.
I don't know what Hamilton is. I don't watch television.
It's a musical where they rap, and so the thing is if they stretched out all the words in the musical to what a normal musical would be, it'd be like 6 hours long, and so they're able to condense it to 3 because of the rapping, because they're speaking so fast. So
I never knew that.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, it's a great play, by the way.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, thank you, Fred, for calling.
John, I know you got your start. I know you got your start, John, quite some time ago, didn't you?
Yes, 32 years ago, July 20th, 1988. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm just about a year ahead of you.
Oh, good.
I'm just about a year ahead of you. Mine is July 5th, 1987.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, it's amazing how time goes by, isn't it?
The day after 4th of July.
Yeah.
And that was a big blowout. I guess it was the end to the idea that I could drink successfully.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that time they say doesn't mean much to the newcomer.
Mm-hmm.
They say you have today.
Yeah.
But But really, when you start to get years, the experience of sobriety is an enduring and lasting process that we've stuck with.
Yeah.
So we have experience in many avenues of, how people go around.
Yeah.
Now there's some good history in the stories in the Big Book. And a lot of those early people, they didn't have ideas like we do in this day and age.
Right.
And how to, most of the people were somewhat learned, but they only learned what they were taught.
Yep.
They didn't think freely.
Right.
So a lot of those concepts that we've developed, not in retaliation or anything like that, to the society that is, so set in their ways that they don't have any other honest, open-minded, and willingness to listen to other people.
Well,
and I think I told you the first time I called, I was kicked out of a meeting because, I didn't want to talk about God, but then I said, who throws the lightning bolts? So, because they were talking about, we were reading the chapter with the electricity in the book.
Right, the mystery
and
electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And last week, the Dale was talking about, he was an electrician.
Right.
So sometimes the regular people, I think, get short-circuited.
Yep. Well, thank you, Fred, for calling. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks, Angela and John, for filling me in on your history a little bit.
Sure.
I think that the Western states came a lot later in sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
My sponsor was an original member of the Oakland Eight in California, and I have a friend who works at volunteer for the state of Utah for the answering service.
Right.
For the I guess it's for like people who are seeking recovery, AA phone line watch. And she's got I think she said 28 or 30 years.
Yeah.
And so, I have a few friends out west, but there's not a lot out there for me, because I went to some meetings in Monterey and Los Angeles and Big Sur.
That's beautiful.
I went to some meetings out there a few years ago, but their concepts were pretty much the same as the old thinking. And the only one that that was different is that at that time they had a different colored chip. They were the ones who were establishing different colored chips for sobriety time.
Okay.
And you could pick up a brown one if you were having a doo-doo day,
Yeah.
I don't know what you can say on the telephone, but
all right.
So that's what they said. And I just want to say that everything is okay these days.
Yeah.
Everything is okay. You cannot point a finger at anybody, or everything is okay. Whatever people want to do, it's okay.
Yeah.
And we all have rights, and we all have interests, and we all have pursuits.
Yep.
Well,
so, Fred, we better move on, I think.
As long as the both of you stay sober and keep at it, we'll enjoy listening to you. Thanks so much.
Take care. Be well, Fred. Thank you
Thanks,
for
Brad.
calling. Appreciate it.
Hi, John.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Angela.
Bye, Brad.
That was nice of him to call in. He's going to be he is a regular, isn't he?
Yeah.
Fred, good old Fred.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
We had a question early on. Let's see. I believe it was from Tracy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like at 6:08. So let's see.
What is it? Is it in the chat room?
Yeah, I so appreciate the work that you both do hosting this Friday evening program. Such a commitment for the benefit of us in recovery. What keeps you motivated? So what keeps you motivated?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, as far as just what, motivated for what? For this?
To get up in the morning, no, to do the show. Yeah, because doing it every week. Why are you doing this?
I love doing this. I love the podcast. I love doing this, everything about it. And I never thought I would ever be doing anything like this. About 5 years ago, we started this website, AA Beyond Belief, and I wanted to have a podcast component to it and started doing this and just fell in love with it, all the people that I've been able to meet, and everything that I've been able to learn over the years. So I love that. And then I like this Friday live stream. This is something new too, but it energizes me. I'm always nervous, like I say, before each one. But I like having the interaction with people live, and it's just something I enjoy, and I know that it touches people. I get comments every once in a while from someone will send me an email or whatever, and Angela an email, and let us know what the podcast meant to them. And I think that is what inspires me to continue more than anything, because there are times when I might feel burnt out, and when I do feel that burnout, I get one of those emails, and it reminds me that I need to keep doing this. And I also have been thinking lately too that if I do get burned out, it's because I have my irons in too many fires. I got too many things going on, and I really need to kind of consolidate and just do what I enjoy doing, what I'm good at doing, and what is helping people the most, I guess. And I really am finding that the podcast is where I really want to spend most of my spare time, and I'm really looking forward to kind of dropping some other things and focusing more on this as part of my recovery program.
Yeah.
What about you, Angela?
Oh, pretty much the same. so yeah, it's the putting something out there that people would like to hear. That is still. I mean, it's not really new, but being able to put out ideas and rephrasing things that they've heard in recovery, if they've been in recovery for a long time, so that it sounds differently and it can revitalize their program, or for people who are new to know that that maybe they can get sober in AA, that there are meetings that they can attend that can that uses language that they might identify more with, so I do it to put those messages out there, and particularly for people who are, I've said before, in places where they can't attend secular meetings or they couldn't prior to Zoom. I felt it was important to do outreach and to the podcast with you on the steps, so that they could see that they could still work a 12-step program and do the steps in a way that they could relate to, and still be able to be a part of the fellowship and attend meetings and stuff, and just use slightly different language. So
good. So Jackie has a question. She says that she's been in traditional AA for a long time now, and she just got into the secular AA through the AA Beyond Belief podcast and now the Zoom meetings. And she's asking, what is the best way for someone to get plugged into service? Oh boy, there is a lot of opportunity right now. If you were so inclined, if you wanted to get involved with like helping out with the International Conference of Secular AA, that is supposed to go on in October of 2021. And you can actually contact the board of Secular AA at secularAA@gmail.com and just ask them how you can help, and they can put you to work. I know that there's some board positions you can apply for too, because we've had some people leave, and you can do that. But that's one way of doing it. Now, also, I just got involved with just regular service work through my traditional AA group through the district. Now, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not going to do it anymore. But I kind of enjoyed it when I was doing it. Not necessarily the work stuff, I guess, but I enjoyed the social aspect and meeting people from other groups. But right now, they're all doing it online. At least, that we did the last area assembly online, and they're always needing people there. But
Right.
that's really a good idea if for someone that's in a secular AA group to get involved with their local district and their traditional AA district and their area, because you can really make a difference just by having other people from other groups meet you and know that, we really have a lot in common with each other. And sometimes you can actually get some change done,
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, and the secular arm or the service arm of AA tends to be more secular in nature. They don't generally talk at the different districts, meetings about higher power or things like that. So if that's something that's important to you, that's a good place to do it. Another thing is, to get your meeting part of the community of wherever you're at, so that they're recognized as a meeting, and you have participation, so your group's voice can be heard. The main AA body is looking at a thing on either not ending or ending international conferences with the Lord's Prayer, and so like our home group has a subcommittee that's looking at that more closely and studying that and going to bring back to our business meeting what their advice is on how we could participate in that. Should we write letters, saying that this is what we would like to see happen, or are there other ways that we should do that? So that's, a good way to get involved. And it also it puts secular people in positions to make the change, like you said. So if an area decided that they don't want to end any of their area meetings with the Lord's Prayer, or they decide to take a vote on it, if we have secular members that are on those committees, then we'll have a say and we'll be able to affect change. I think somebody had put in our Facebook group a question along the lines of, will AA change the steps and the Lord's Prayer and the Christian stuff and all of that kind of thing? And on the whole, I don't think they'll do it by themselves. Definitely not. But with our help, and influence, and there's a possibility. It's definitely not going to be quickly, but that would be the way that if that's the change you wanted to see in AA, that would be a way that you could go about it, is by starting to be of service and move your way through the different service positions, so that you're in a position to be somebody that people would go to ask those questions and to help make those decisions.
So were you referring to Carl's question, the one that we got from the Facebook group?
I think so.
Let me read that, because it was an interesting question. And shall I read the whole thing? I guess I will. God, higher power, is completely speculation with no tangible evidence of truth. One cannot claim to be aware of that which does not exist. Therefore, AA, to be inclusive and not biased, must present factual science-based evidence, such as the inventory steps and possible 11 meditation benefits. Step 1 is also factual in content. The higher power steps need to go. Step 12, helping others, is factual. The spiritual essence of the 12 principles underlying each step is valid as well. AA needs a new unbiased 12 steps, and traditions can be eliminated, as the world is always changing and such dogmas are never flexible or inclusive. New texts, new steps, no traditions, and definitely must be science-based evidence, science evidence-based, using current research-based information. When will this happen? Higher power needs to be thrown out and discarded for higher wisdom. When will this happen? Well, here's the thing, in my opinion, okay? People will say, often say that, when will AA do this? Or when will, why? AA is my home group. If I want to change anything in AA, I just bring it up at my business meeting at my home group. So if I don't like the way that we're reading the 12 steps at my home group, I can just go there and to the business meeting and tell them I want to read them different, and we can have a vote on it and do it. So, I mean, to me, there is no top-down AA. There is no authority that says this is what AA is and this is the way you must follow it and this is what you must do. AA is changed from the grassroots. It's from the groups themselves. So that's where the freedom is. Now you can affect some change at the conference level, I guess. Like you can have like a pamphlet. Maybe you can have them vote on a pamphlet or something, a pamphlet that nobody reads. Like when we got the Godward pamphlet out, that was something that happened.
Mm-hmm.
We could probably, make a motion at the General Service Conference to have a new text written that addresses the program of recovery. We could certainly do that. And that would be like AA World Services, I guess, that would publish that. And that's something that would just require a lot of time and effort through the service conference. And it's possible. And I have to tell you, I do have a lot of respect for the service conference and how it works. And what I have the most respect for is they listen to the minority. There's the minority opinion is taken very seriously. And I've been in the minority for a long time at our area assembly. And when I speak out and ask for something, people listen, they give me a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can get things done that way. But AA itself, in my opinion, is your home group. It's my home group. So we can make it whatever we want it to be.
Right. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. What was the other question that we got by email? Do you have that?
Oh, Dennis.
Yeah.
Dennis, yeah. He said, I'd like to ask you and Angela, in terms of sponsoring or just helping people, do you find the steps, even in a secular interpretation, and as an effective path to sobriety? Are there any other aspects that have become more effective? I think this is a good question. I found that knowing more about neurology and concentrating on behavior modification as being more to the point. I'll let you take that one, Angela.
I agree that at least in the way that I do them and the way I do my program, that continuing education, except we don't get the CPUs. That's been something important to my program, is to continuing to seek understanding about a lot of different things. So I do think that they're effective, but it depends on how you do them. I would say that I haven't done them the way that they're written in the big book. The majority of that text doesn't actually apply to me because I'm a woman. And so, we're always told, well, just, change it. And, it's like, well, no, that's what it says. So if you're going to, say that you have to do the steps exactly as they're written in the book, then, it doesn't work. So, from the get-go, I've had to revise, how I do things and to have a different understanding. And so I do think that they can be effective, but, it's a quality, versus quantity type thing. I think it's important that people who are sponsoring, continue to learn, continue to grow, and seek out different ideas on ways to do the steps, and to continue to also suggest that people seek outside help for other things that come up, because we're not counselors, we're not professionals, but having some knowledge of, different, methods like cognitive behavioral therapy or being trauma informed, things like that, I think are very helpful for doing the steps, because it can help me guide somebody in a direction of getting better help so that they can maintain their sobriety. Because if they have some sort of trauma issue that comes up early in discussion, some steps, then I can get them in that direction before the fourth step, which can be really difficult for people who've been traumatized or have trauma as part of their story. And so rather than having them start going through stuff and maybe not having enough tools to be able to process that yet, I can get them to a therapeutic situation where they can be working on that. And then, we can work on steps as needed, either with that or after they get some sessions to process some of that more difficult stuff. But yeah, I do think that they're still helpful, particularly to those who don't have the income or are not able, for whatever reason, to seek additional help outside, either addiction counseling or just counseling in general, that it's a way for us to be able to help them do, what we talked about earlier, which is, we're trying to help people with daily lifestyle change, to daily do something other than put alcohol in your body. And so I think we can still use the steps to at least get that process going, and have kind of a systematic way for them to be able to think about their feelings and start processing things so that they can make that change.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think, I think that a lot of the steps are a kind of experiential, and basically, by if you say quote working them or just discussing them with another person, I think what's nice about it is it just gives you a roadmap to follow as a way of connecting with another person. It gives you a common language to use with each other. So like if I'm going to sit down and think about what that first step meant to me, that moment in my life when I realized I needed help, um, and I do that in a way, maybe by reading a book and talking to somebody about it or whatever. I don't think that is necessarily the step itself is getting me sober, but it's that connection I'm making with that other person. And the steps is just like a, something that kind of helps facilitate the conversation, because those first three steps are basically, an experience that we had. And then you get into the steps where you do actually do something. And I do find those very valuable. I think that, four through 7 were really valuable for me, and still are.
Yeah.
Because that's actually where you get to work, and was helpful for me. So I think there's some value in them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I do work in the first 3 as well, but that is because I do them slightly differently. So it's building up to be able to do the more
right. It is.
stuff,
It's preparing yourself for that.
right.
Yeah.
So that
absolutely. It's
at 3 you're entirely ready to start looking at some of the tough stuff.
And speaking of that too, it's real similar actually to SMART, because SMART does the same thing. They talk about stages of change, and the steps actually kind of do the same thing, because the first stage of change, I can't remember how it goes, but it's like, you have to make a decision, you have to make a commitment. And that's really what, like you say, when you're going through those first 3 steps, is what it's doing. It's solidifying for you that commitment that you're going to make to sobriety, and then taking the steps that will make staying sober easier.
Right.
So anyway.
Yeah, I listened to another podcast this afternoon that was on NPR, and it was on forgiveness, and it not being about what you think it's about, and it's really good. I'll put a link to it in our Facebook group, because basically, if you listen to it and you've been in recovery for any amount of time, you'll likely hear what pretty much is what we do from steps 4 through 8, or no, 4 through 7 really. But they phrase it in such a way that it's very succinct and to the point and up to date. And I was just blown away. I'm like, that is awesome. And so I would suggest anybody who has the time, check that out, because I really do think that it's pretty much what we're doing in that, and when we're working the steps, and this is a way that people can get to some of the stuff that we're trying to get through in a quicker fashion, So so that might be better for anybody who's really struggling with some difficult feelings right now, and in a tough place, and either can't reach out or don't know how or whatever. That podcast actually covers a lot of stuff in only 20 minutes, and it provides a worksheet. So, cool. I like worksheets.
Tracy wants to know, she's asking if, she's wondering if meetings in the age of Zoom will spell the end for areas and districts, since we're from all over the country and the world. What do you think about that, Angela? How is COVID and
yeah, I don't know. I think that they'll still have them. I think that they'll still, base any meeting that has a physical component, I think will still be considered that location, even if they have a Zoom component as well. I think the meetings that started that don't have a location, that they just truly are all over the place, like say the one that we've started doing on Saturday, that those ones will likely need to work with the online intergroup, and that online intergroup will probably, if they don't already, I don't know that much about them, create where, you're a group and you have a GSR and you have a way to, be part of the service structure as well. So that would be my guess. I can't say for sure because I don't have my magic 8-ball in front of me, but I'm thinking that would probably be the most likely way. Again, we know that they don't move very fast, so changing how they do areas and districts and things like that, I'm not sure that would change very quickly. So I think they'd still prefer likely us to have one member be in a location and say that that's where the group is. So kind of like with the secular board, secular AA board, the ICSA, for a checking account and for all of that stuff, we have to have a physical location. So it was chosen to be in Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's, where the GSO thinks, that we're technically located when we aren't. We're all over the place. And so, yeah.
Yeah. That is kind of interesting, though, because I do think that this is going to have a lasting effect on how we make it to meetings. And I do think that even when the pandemic is over and we start meeting in person again, that these secular online meetings are going to remain. So it's like we've already grown these secular meetings just through this online component. And that's going to have an impact on AA as a whole, especially when, those people that are going to those online meetings, the secular online meetings, start going to their home group, and they might start questioning things like, can we stop saying the Lord's Prayer or something like that? It could make some change.
Well, I think and just starting new meetings in their own area, I think we'll see a whole bunch of them just pop up, and that'll be something that AA as a whole will need to deal with as well. But I do think that we'll still be able to have the groups that have people from all over the place, and still have them be able to be part of the service structure. And I think we'll be a big part of pushing AA into the future and into change that it may not have wanted to do prior to COVID. So,
yeah. I can't believe that we're coming up on an hour already, but I had some questions for you. I wrote out like 20. I know I wrote out like 20 questions.
20?
Oh yeah. But let me see if I can find one that's a good one. Yeah. Well, I don't know. This might take long. What is more important, the steps or connection with other alcoholics?
What is more important, the steps or connection with other alcoholics? Well, I would say the connection with other alcoholics, because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't know how to interpret the steps. And I think to get the most out of the steps, you need another alcoholic to help you with it. I know for myself that, just reading them wasn't helpful to me. I mean, there were a couple that I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that, or I understand that. I know how to make a list. Okay,
right.
We're good. But that really wouldn't have helped me stay sober for long. Maybe it would have given me something to do for, a couple of days. But yeah, I'm definitely on the connection with other alcoholics as being the key. And, as we know, some people, that's all they need is to have that connection with other alcoholics. They don't need the steps. They don't need, any of the additional stuff, the service work or whatever. But for me, I think that it is helpful to have that connection and then start looking at the steps in order to, continue to learn and grow.
Well, the steps also help facilitate that connection too, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Because it gives you that, that thing in common that we have, to share our experience with each other through these steps.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And what up? I had a couple questions for you. I was going to
Wait,
ask.
no,
Here's
it's my turn. It's my turn.
all right.
So, in less than 2 minutes, what are your top 3 favorite podcasts you've done?
Oh my
God.
God.
We all know that they're all great and memorable in their own way, and that's it doesn't mean that you like them more,
No.
a given day, but the top 3 that pop into your head that are memorable to you or that you think are important or you're particularly proud of.
I'll tell you the one that for whatever reason I really enjoyed was a book. God, what was it called? It was a book called Shift Happens. So I read this book, and Shift Happens, written by this lovely lady from Northern California, and she was a truck driver in the 1980s, the early 1980s, a woman truck driver, and there weren't very many of them. And she was recovering from mental illness and had a really bad problem with alcoholism. And so she wrote this book about her experience of getting through mental illness and alcoholism while learning to be an over-the-road trucker, and then her experiences as an over-the-road trucker and recovery. And it was just a really wonderful, beautiful book. And she was a really interesting person, lovely lady, and I just enjoyed that very much. And I think about her sometimes. So that was probably one of my more memorable ones. But all of them, like you say, I've learned so much from, the people that I've talked to over the years. Recently, here's an interesting one. I just had this one like about a week ago. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I kind of become friends with her. So I had this podcast with this lady, and she's a younger woman, and she is really cool. She's got her own podcast called Sober Gratitude. Mm-hmm. And she's just really excited about sobriety. She loves her podcast and everything. So I interviewed her, and I didn't really realize, but she was like really into God and really into the big book, and so she talked about like all throughout the podcast, it was like, oh, thank God for this. Thank God for that. God has helped me with this. God has helped me with that. I don't know if she really realized that it was a secular podcast or what it was, but anyway, she was just so nice. Anyway, so she and I are going to try to create a Facebook group for recovery podcasters. Oh. And so it was kind of funny. I made a friend with her, but I don't know what I'm going to do with this podcast. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put it out or not.
Well, you could probably do a qualifier on it so people know, what to expect.
Yeah, I've just never had that happen before. I've never had someone come on, like that. But I've had a believer on before. I did a podcast with John, my friend from Texas, who has what is it called? I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry. It's too late. But anyway, he's a believer, and we became friends. I was on his podcast and he was on mine. So yeah, but I think that Shift Happens was one of my favorites. Simply because of the story and everything. So yeah, she was a really interesting person. And Margot is her name. Anyway, she's got a website. She writes poetry. She's very talented. I hope she's doing well. I should touch base with her.
Yeah. Well, I know that one that is, very popular is the one with Jon Stewart.
That is.
And I think part of the reason is, people get angry with AA and they're looking for, how they can stay sober without being a part of it. But also, I think the picture you put up of the person in the shadow and then the name Jon Stewart, people, assume that it's the American one. And so I think that's part
what he says.
That they
he says the reason so popular, everybody thinks it's the American Jon Stewart.
And the picture that you put up there. And so,
but that is a memorable one too, actually, because that was one of the very first episodes. And he was just so nice. And I'm
looking forward to having him come back.
Yeah, he's really interesting, and I enjoyed that conversation a lot and learned a lot from him and have a lot of respect for him. So yeah, we'll definitely have to have him back, him on the podcast
he's
again.
One of the most requested of people, so we've been working on that, and so yeah.
So I think he said in September.
Yeah, so we're holding him to it. So
yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to be it. I hope that this was a useful use of everyone's time, that the questions were interesting and the answers were coherent. I've been inspired to maybe start working out. Maybe. Actually, I was talking to my wife about that today. Told her I need to start working out. Well, anyway, thanks for listening to another episode of AA Beyond Belief, the podcast. If you'd like to help us out, you can do so by getting to our Patreon page, patreon.com/AA Beyond Belief, and becoming a patron with small contributions, or just go to our website, aabeyondbelief.org, and click on the donate button. But again, I know that in these are tough times. Not everybody has a job. Not everybody has money. So don't worry about it if you don't. Just listen, and we'll connect with each other. Be back real soon. Take care, everyone.